Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to our morning coffee time. I believe we have arrived at Saturday, July the 25th. So the days and nights are relentlessly passing. How well am I spending my time? This is one of our frequent recollections. This is found in the chant called the 10 Reflections in our chanting book. Maybe I should add that to this evening's chanting and meditation. It's one that's got a little bit more focused monastic flavor to it than the 5 reflections that we do. But I think it's something that still has value for the one dedicated to the practice of Dhamma. If one is sincerely set on developing generosity, loving kindness, serenity, and understanding and overcoming dukkha, then they have a little monastic in their heart. What they wear is either immaterial or secondary. So yeah, maybe we'll do that tonight. Okay, a little bit of news before we get going. I saw the sign that everything's looking and sounding good, which is very good because all these little things are going wrong this morning. Or maybe I shouldn't say wrong, but not in the way that one would wish for. So good opportunity to slow down and be patient. Couple announcements though. I got an email for those of you who are not on the T-Sarna email list. They sent something out this morning that Ajahn Punadamo of Arrow River Forest Hermitage, which is a good friend of ours and part of the Ajahn Chah Sangha, has an opportunity for a steward coming up this fall or winter. I'm uncertain about the dates, but if that fits into your pandemic plans and you want to spend a little time as a steward, you might check out the Arrow River Forest Monastery's website. So it's a very remote monastery, somewhat outside of Thunder Bay, maybe 45 minutes out of Thunder Bay, Ontario, and just a little bit over the Minnesota-Canada border. So, and I was able to visit for the first time, was it last year, I think? We all gathered there, and it's a wonderful place. Very rustic, lots of cabins scattered out through the forest near the Arrow River and the Pigeon River. So, yeah, I see your message here, Shelley. Canadians don't want Americans. I don't think that's not true. I think Canadians want Americans, but we might have some travel restrictions still in place, but let's hope for the fall that might be different. And we do have a few Canadians and Cascadians that are Canadian citizens on the stream here as well. So I remember like a few weeks back, I came across this news story about some young man who had just come out of a 75-day silent retreat And this was in the early part of the pandemic. And the whole news story was kind of cast sort of Rip Van Winkle. He came out of his 75-day retreat, and much of the U.S. was under lockdown or something of that sort of nature. And he got on Twitter and said, "I just came back from a 75-day retreat. Did anything happen while I was gone?" And recently I found an interview with him, very interesting fellow. And of course he was joking. But the journalists were all too eager to sort of play up this kind of Rip Van Winkle-esque cast to the story or something. But the reason I'm thinking about this morning is I remember reading about his experience and then thinking, I'd like to do that. I remember early on in the pandemic thinking, we're just coming to the end of our winter retreat period and thinking, well, we might even have a longer, more silent, profound experience rolling forward in the next months. And it appeared that there was a fork in the road there. Could kind of continue on in a very simple, silent mode here, or do what it is that we're doing now. So virtualizing the Birkin retreat in May and live streaming pujas twice a day and doing the morning coffee time stream. So, and out of compassion for people that had already had 3-4 months of not having much access to the Sangha, I chose this route. So, but it's funny how a monk can feel jealous. I might take a personal retreat here at some point. I've toyed with the idea, taking a couple weeks off at least or something at some point. Because I kind of think this pandemic thing is going to drag on for a while. Okay, and then as I'm sure everyone's all too aware, tomorrow afternoon, Ajahn Sona's 5th talk in the Jhana series is going to premiere on YouTube at 1 p.m. And on Monday, we'll have him. And triple the friends. So we did a little test to see if we can kind of improve a few things with that. So I'm looking forward to it. Before we're starting here, at random, I just flipped open this nice little copy of the Dhammapada that was sent to me by Cher, I believe. This translation is from the Venerable Ananda Maitreya, who was an amazing Sri Lankan monk. I think he lived a little past 100 years. And it was translated by him and revised by an American woman named Rose Kramer. And Rose's son, Gregory, used to live in Portland. I'm not sure if he still does. And I got to know him through the Friends of the Dhamma. He was involved for a little bit in the very early days. So, but this is a nice translation. And I flipped it open to the chapter on the pleasant. And I thought these are good words of reminders, good reminders. So I thought I'd just read a little bit of that before taking questions today. When anyone mistakenly pursues only what is pleasant, avoiding the true path, forgetting their true purpose, attached to the senses, when anyone sees another on the true path, they will experience their loss and be full of reproach. Avoid attachment to both what is pleasant and what is unpleasant. Losing the pleasant causes grief. Dwelling on the unpleasant also causes grief. Do not cling to the pleasant. Let it pass, so that the separation will not diminish you. Clinging to what is dear brings sorrow. Clinging to what is dear brings fear. To one who is entirely free from endearment, there is no sorrow or fear. Sorrow springs from affection. Fear springs from affection. To loosen those bonds is to be free from sorrow and fear. Sorrow springs from indulgence in sensual pleasures. Fear springs from indulgence in sensual pleasure. Whoever is free from such indulgence knows neither sorrow nor fear. Sorrow springs from preoccupation with lustful pleasures. Fear springs from preoccupation with lustful pleasures. Whoever is free from such preoccupation knows neither sorrow nor fear. Sorrow springs from craving. Fear springs from craving. Whoever is free from craving knows neither sorrow nor fear. People cherish the person committed to right action and rich in understanding. That person, knowing the truth, walks steadfastly on the path. The person who reaches the sacred, the inexpressible, who has permeated his mind with it, who is in control of his senses, is one bound upstream. Friends and relatives welcome with joy a loved one, returning from abroad after a long absence. In exactly the same way will the fruits of right action welcome the doer as he travels from one life to the next. So again, that's a translation of the Dhammapada from Ananda Maitreya, published by this is published by Parallax Press. So thank you for this little volume share. So I like that first verse kind of parallels my don't mistake pleasure for happiness rejoinder. And kind of later where it's talking, the verses where it kind of goes on about how clinging brings sorrow, clinging brings fear. Sorrow springs from affection, fear springs from affection. Sorrow springs from sensual indulgence. Fear springs from sensual indulgence. This kind of relates like in language I often find that I use with myself and in conversation with others. Like this is what I talk about in terms of your investment in the sense realm. So I think that language can be challenging to people. Like, what? I'm supposed to be without affection? People and things are not supposed to be dear to me? And if that is the reaction one has, my encouragement would be, don't get too hung up on the words or the reaction, but take it as a suggestion or an invitation to sort of examine your relationship to the sense realm and relationships. Like what kind of investment do we have there? What kind of need, what kind of liability do we have there? And what is that orientation, that relationship? to the habits of dukkha and the habits of suffering. The sense realm is the realm of Mara, the Lord of Death, and it's characterized by sorrow and fear. Because of its ephemeral nature and because of its inability to bring us satisfaction, true contentment, true lasting contentment, security. And the wise person, seeing that liability and seeing the escape, develops the good heart and transforms their relationship to that. And that relationship is one based on love and equanimity and compassion, clarity, full of acceptance and warmth. It's not to be feared. So if that kind of relationship to self and others in the world does not inspire, then perhaps it's not for you, or perhaps you need to study a little bit more and explore a little bit more, and not necessarily in the books, although they can be great aids, but the fundamental study is in one's own heart, and be ruthlessly honest with one about their dependencies on finding happiness outside of the heart of Dhamma, or this interior experience of serenity and insight that is a possible opportunity for us to develop through cultivating Dhamma. So just a few words. Don't mistake pleasure for happiness. Re-examine your relationship to the sense world. And practicing rightly. I love that final stanza. It's beautiful. I've lost my place here now. Friends and relatives welcome with joy a loved one. It's a beautiful image. Returning from abroad after a long absence. In exactly the same way will the fruits of right action welcome the doer as he travels from one life to the next. It's very different than this I got to get enlightened sort of thing. So you plant the seeds. You practice rightly. The fruits will come. And rather thinking of it as getting it, thinking of it as when the conditions have been developed, you will be welcomed into that place of peace and freedom. And it's beautiful because it's a vision of the natural world, and it's a vision that doesn't require the frame of self. So offer that for a little inspiration today. This Saturday in the summer. Let's look at the chat. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. I should do a speed round here. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Blessings to you, Ajahn, for doing this every day. It's such a wonderful and joyful part of my day. Well, blessings to you, Douglas. And thank you. Okay, I'm back to Douglas. I remember you calling chores God's work. How do I enjoy chores while I'm doing them instead of feeling aversion to them? Good question. Yeah. I sometimes call them God's work, but you can also call them holy work. And I call them that because they're never done. And so they're reminding us of impermanence. And I see one of the fundamental delusions is we buy into some sort of sense that happiness is out there on the horizon or in the future. As soon as I get past this, as soon as I get over this, as soon as I can change myself in this way, then I'll be happy. We're constantly projecting happiness somewhere out there in the future, usually. Sometimes I guess people are trying to fix things in the past, and they think if they can resolve their past as they remember it, that then they will enjoy peace and happiness. So, and I think chores kind of mirror this or something, because if we see them with tanha, if we relate to them sort of as something that's an annoyance, something we just want to get out of the way, we're exercising that very same dynamic. We see them as unimportant. We don't see them as holding much promise. And we're thinking about it all wrong. They hold like as much potential as anything else in our lives. There's the potential to be present, to be mindful, to be giving, to be caring, to be humble, to be patient. In all the stuff of our life. And it's all about how you are able to relate to it. It's not so much about what you're doing, especially when we talk about what could be classified as very neutral acts, in a sense. So like if the attitude and the intention are good, then the doing will be good and the results will be good. So now the aversion, where's that come from? It usually comes from some tanha. There's something else you want to be doing that you think will make you happy. And like, that's the good thing. That's the thing you're really living for. That's the thing you really want to do. And this is the obstacle. So you develop aversion for it, or just a negative longing for it not to be, or for it to be done already. And really like forevermore. Like, and now we're making robots that can mow our grass and robots that can sweep our floors. And we already have robots that wash our clothes and dry our clothes and wash our dishes and chop our food. And are we any happier? I think not. I mean, they make things easier on some level, but do they make us happier? I don't think so. Because we're just on to something else. And this fantasy that somehow life is just going to take care of herself and we'll only be able to sort of devote our energies to the most thrilling and exciting kind of things is really delusional and quite crazy. And to me, it's a little bit troubling. Like a couple years ago, somebody invented this Soylent drink that I read about on the internet, and it was a young guy, and he wasn't all very he he didn't like to cook, and he thought, all the time kind of buying and preparing food and cooking just seemed like a tremendous waste of time, and he really wanted a like kind of meal supplement. So he invented this Soylent drink. And the idea was like all the nutriments and vitamins would be in this thing, and all you have to do is drink this, and then you can get on with your day. And I remember thinking, I mean, I can kind of understand the mind how it gets there, but it's kind of crazy and delusional. My God, food is like so fundamental to a human life. Like this is like the real work of life. Growing food, preparing food, cooking food, eating food, cleaning up from the food, building a house, maintaining a house, caring for a house. These are kind of like the fundamental things, and like the play is extra. But we should learn how to be happy with the fundamentals of life and accepting of the fundamentals of life rather than just dismiss them. And of course, there's some sort of balance. I mean, in Buddhist monasteries, we just eat once or maybe twice a day, but we have a restricted feeding window, and that's to create some time and space and simplicity, because you don't want all of your day or everything to be involved in that. But more importantly, you have to sort of accept that there's a certain amount of stuff that it takes to care for this body and care for your family and care for your clothes and your home and the requisites of life. And like anything that is there in your life, you should figure out a skillful and blessed way to relate to it. So, and for me, a little mind hack is to think of it as God's work or blessed work, because if you have the right mind, it is. So, like it's an act of love and kindness to tidy things up and to clean things and to order things, especially when you're doing it for others, which most often we are. I mean, anyways, that's my wrap on God's work. I'm sometimes never been happier than just having a simple chore to do, especially as I've now kind of graduated into being the senior incumbent or the abbot of the monastery. Is selfing at the core? Again, yes. Investing in a sense of ownership. Yeah, Sumana, I think so. I these days I call it my working hypothesis. If there's suffering, you should have a working hypothesis that somehow the self is embedded in there, because this kind of thirsting is always connected with some concept of me getting for me. So there's always some notion of me or mine kind of bound up with this tanha that the Buddha is talking about that always leads to dukkha. Morning, Trevor. How does one become officially a Buddhist? How would one do this during the pandemic? Thank you for all your wisdom. There are ceremonies that have been developed, Trevor, but if you look back to the suttas from the time of the Buddha, there are instances where people encounter the Buddha or one of his disciples, and they merely declare their faith in Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. So in the Buddha and his teachings, and the Sangha, his traditionally his monastic disciples are the enlightened disciples that have followed in his footsteps. And they declare to have gone to the Triple Gem for refuge. And oftentimes some of the wording that's used there is, let it be known that I have gone for refuge to the Triple Gem or to the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. And sometimes they'll add like for life. So it can be just a mere declaration that this is one's commitment, this is one's spiritual orientation. Let it be known that I am a follower or a disciple or a student, and that this is my spiritual strategy, is to look to the teachings of the Buddha and the Dhamma to inform my spiritual needs and my spiritual path. And most of the cultural rituals that I think developed later are based on those statements of declaration. They're often done in the presence of monks, which maybe gives them a bit more sense of being official. But really, sort of in the midst of a pandemic, one can certainly do this on one's own. It's more a change of heart or a kind of clarification in one that that's one's orientation. And it's good to do not just once, but again and again, because we can often get confused or lost, especially especially sort of living amidst such a proliferation of teachings. So, and it might be even useful to further kind of refine that. Living so long after the Buddha, there are Buddhisms. There's so many schools that have developed in Buddhism are different modalities, and sometimes it can be even difficult to find the commonality in later forms of Buddhism with early Buddhism. So I would look to that, and maybe look. There's a book that Ajahn Thanissaro from Metta Forest Monastery published quite a number of years ago called Refuge, which you might look into. And we talk about this often with this language of like taking refuge in. And I'd say if you really want to make a commitment and clarify your spiritual orientation to practicing Buddhism, you look into that. And you can either write Metta Forest Monastery, and if they have printed copies of that, they'd probably be happy to send you one for free, or just find an ebook version of it online or PDF and read that little book. That'll give you some good background. And then you can set up a little ceremony for yourself at home. Put a picture up or make a little shrine. Bow 3 times and recite the homage to the Buddha 3 times, and then take refuge in Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. And that ceremony is detailed in our chanting book, which you can find online or linked in our morning and evening chanting sessions that are on YouTube. So, all right. Let's see. Zuri, I see your question to talk about anapanasati. I think you'll have to bring that back to me another day. I skipped over that when I did Sumana's question, so. Zora. I probably didn't get your name right, but I'll keep trying. Zora. He's got a click at the beginning of his name. What are the drawbacks and benefits of guided meditation? Do modern monks do guided meditations from YouTube, etc.? What are the drawbacks and benefits of guided meditation? Well, it depends on the person. Like, I've had the experience, and I've heard from other people, sometimes guided meditations arouse aversion in people. Sometimes you just don't resonate with the voice or the pacing or something of another. And that can be a bit of a hindrance, to say the least. But guided meditation is very powerful. Meditation is a kind of intentional and conscious shaping of your conscious experience. You are working with perception in a very intentional way in developing a meditation. And so in some sense, you can talk yourself into it, because speech is very powerful in shaping our conscious experience. So, and some of the reflections that we have and that we do on a regular basis, or even that you find in the suttas, are structure, are a tool to kind of use language to meditate and to shape our conscious experience. Like, take for instance some of these short metta refrains. May I be well. May I be free from affliction, free from aversion, free from hostility, free from ill will. It's like part of us resonates with that and has some kind of durable aspiration to be free of those afflictions. But speaking it helps clarify and crystallize it. It constellates it, brings it to the fore, and in some way inclines the mind in this direction of arousing metta in the heart. Now, the discursive nature of guided meditations can be a bit of a limitation, but I think people can make too much of that. So, that some people would say, that is a drawback, and, it is, but only to a certain level or a certain extent. And only if most people could get to that limit or that extent would I be happy making too much out of that. The vast majority of the people in the world are not hitting those limits. So I think guided meditation is great. And modern monks do guided meditations. I'm not aware of how many are available on YouTube itself, but my brother, my friend Ajahn I know he's done some CDs, and some of his guided meditations are available on the Insight Timer app. And I think recently, with the beginning of the pandemic, he set up a YouTube channel, so maybe at some point he'll have some of those on his. I'm not so aware of other monks in our tradition specifically doing guided meditations, like as a little standalone component and then publishing those on YouTube. But you'll find those in the talks that many of the monks and nuns in our tradition do at retreats, either day-long or longer retreats that they're guiding. And so if you listen to some of those recordings, you'll find these. So, but those are a little harder to kind of track down. It'd be good to have more, really, because there is something about the quality of different people's voices and how it is that they guide one in a meditation that somewhat boils down to preference. And so having a variety of people leading guided meditations so that you can kind of find one that really feels comfortable, pleasant, resonates with you would be valuable. So yeah, Ajahn Brahm does some from Australia on YouTube. So yeah, you might look at the Ajahn Brahm YouTube channel. And apparently Ajahn Jayasaro has one or two on YouTube. I'm not sure where. Oh, and Adil confirms, yes, Ajahn Jayasaro's guided meditations are great. So search YouTube for Ajahn Jayasaro's guided meditations. I might do that myself. He's got a beautiful, soothing delivery. I trained at Watnanachat with Ajahn Jayasaro, and his Dham talk's wonderful back then. It's unfortunate he doesn't do more in English. So, okay, and here's one more. Sam Harris does 10 minutes a day of guided meditation. Very good, yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to leave it at that for today, friends. Running a bit long, but hey, it's Saturday, and not everybody has to go to work today, so be well, and I'll see you all tomorrow morning on the morning coffee time, unless you join us for the evening chanting tonight. And I've made a commitment already, so if you do join us for the evening chanting, you will get the treat of the 10 reflections. And see what you do with those. So, okay, bye for now, friends. Be well, have a good day, and we'll see you tomorrow.